My name is Barry Osborne. If you've not been to one of these before, welcome to this occasion. And I'm CEO of Rural Mission Solutions. I've done over 50 years of work in rural mission and ministry across the country. Would you like to introduce yourself, Gordon?
Indeed. Gordon Banks, Church Army officer, currently based in Stafford in the Midlands, and I'm the Staffordshire Episcopal area in the Diocese of Lichfield. Historically, I've worked in Northumberland, the Truro Diocese and the Chichester Diocese, and so most of my 35 years ministry has been in and around rural areas. And Barry and I have been working together almost as long as that time, actually.
Quite some time anyway. Okay, so just to deal with a few of the practical points, and then we get into the presentation proper. So a number of ways you can interact with the slides, just so that you're aware of what you could do. You can ask a question. I've mentioned that. Type in a question at any time. We may not get time to respond to your questions during the course of the presentation, but if we can, we will. Otherwise, put your question in. We will email you an answer back. There are handouts. If you go down to handouts, click the little triangle next to it, you'll get access. There are 4 handouts. One is all the links that we should mention in the presentation and more. So you'll find that very helpful. There's 2 other things there as items you might want to build into a family service that are harvest related. And then there's also the slide presentation. We will ask you to take part in a poll in a little while. That's just to give us some feedback from you. And also we'll ask you to respond to a survey. That will come up automatically at the end of the presentation. We leave the last slide on for a few minutes just in case people haven't got the handouts. But don't worry about it. If you don't get the handouts off this presentation, they will be available on the website, and that will be brought up to date later today. And just to say, if you are watching this presentation on the recorded video, obviously you can't take part in the poll. You will see the feedback from the poll, and you can't take part in the survey, but you will be able to access the handouts. Just one other thing to say, and that is a follow-up discussion. Now, this is entirely in your hands. One of the questions in the survey is, would you like to be involved in an online conversation? Gordon and I are often looking out for new ideas, new suggestions. You may have comments to make about what we've done in this presentation, or you may have ideas and suggestions for either things we could build into it or other topics that you'd like us to cover. So if you want to follow up, it'll be in the survey. Gordon, some will be new to the idea of the annual cycle for mission. Very quickly, will you talk us through this?
Yeah, that slide looks rather complicated, but we've got it as a download, I believe, as in a handout, so you can look at it a bit later. But basically what we're inviting people to do is to consider what's happening around the world in sport, in art, festivals, etc. Then asking, well, what's happening in our own country as well? By the way, the BBC have a brilliant sports page with all fixtures and things going on. What's happening in your own county? What's happening in your own village or town? And setting all of that against a backdrop of the church's year. And so what we're trying to do is create a missional heartbeat, not a hiccup. So we actually go with the rhythms and patterns which work perfectly with the rural area, with the seasons and the cycles. So we work with them to try and harmonize with them.
Now, there's a wonderful biblical example of that, I suppose, with the meeting of Jesus with the woman at the well. The conversation that flowed first from engagement with what she was doing. She came to draw water, Jesus asked for water. So if you get your church activity synced to what's going on in the village and in the wider world, then that'll help. And of course, it's all about getting it harmonized, isn't it? And we want to say, get it right. These events will not intrude into your program. There'll be an opportunity. So that's what we're hoping to say is, how can you do these things as an opportunity? And at the heart of it all, there's the mission principle. Gordon, this is something that's really important on your heart and mine, isn't it?
It is indeed, Barry. So it's not so much about pounds and profile. Rather sadly, we do often put on events and the focus is on finance. That is important, but it's far more important that we demonstrate the outrageous grace of God, that we do things, and particularly we've mentioned there that at least one activity is clearly altruistic, that we're just wanting to bless people and to stand alongside them. Often in an event that they may be doing and that's not our event, we'll just say, yep, we can pole up, we can put a hand to that, and we can help with that. And that could be any number of different things that we can do with that one.
Yeah, one of the problems that people have with church is that they think we're only interested in ourselves and our own program. So showing the love of God for them, that God cares for them, by sharing with them and doing things for them. In one of my village churches, we used to put on events and charge people, perhaps a big concert or something, but we would provide food, we'd make it a really quality thing, but we would do it for something like the air ambulance, which was a charity that the village loved, and that worked very, very well. The other thing to say is all of these things are that come along, you really need to point forward all the time. So when you do something at harvest time, point them forward. So this is just an idea, rough idea of 3 things you might point forward to, but you've got special things coming up. Don't just do your one special thing, remind them what's coming up. It's what they do on the television all the time, what's coming up next week, so do that.
And maybe have some, at least some feeder information available, Barry, that you can put into the hand as well. Been great that you've been with us, or whatever. Remember, the next thing we'll be looking at is.
And if you're going to do that, you could perhaps build into it. Would like to know more about the Christian faith? Why not visit www.christianity.org.uk. That's a brilliant website. It's a seeker website. And if you're not familiar with it, please look it up. Remind you, all these links are in the handout, or you'll get them off the Rural Mission Solutions website. So please look that up. It's run under the auspices of Churches Together in England, managed by a Church Army colleague of Gordon's.
Unlocking the door. Michael Harvey was involved in Back to Church initiative a few years ago that is now morphed into Seasons of Invitation. But Michael has particularly picked up saying, well, we've got the welcome right. We may have the welcome right. I hope we have. However, people are not coming. Well, again, there's a biblical story about that. They need to be invited. And so Michael has a whole raft of resources that help people. How do we create a culture of invitation in your church? Now, Back to Church Sunday was Back to Church, and that may be where it became a little bit sticky in some ways. So Michael is proposing a special event in 2018 called the National Weekend of Invitation. More information will be about that shortly. But he's thinking about inviting people to a whole range of activities, but particularly creating that culture of invitation to come along to an event that may not be a church service, but maybe another activity or event. Thank you. So check out that website.
And again, links in the handout. Now, just to remind you that what we're concerned with is sharing the story of Jesus. Now, part of that's acted out in our service in the community and in all sorts of other ways, so presence is important, but we've a story to share. We need to do it in ways that are appropriate. Doesn't always do to hit people over the head with scripture, so we need to find convenient and appropriate ways of doing that, but be ready to share something of the story. That's at the heart of what God has called us to do. And if he was to ask how we're getting on with the task, I think we'd often have to say not very well, but that's what he's asked us to do, to share his story with other people. So Gordon, autumn months, what's coming up?
Autumn months, what's coming up? Well, some of the basic events, this is coming back down to what we were talking about earlier, seasons and cycles. We've got the start of the academic year. We've got Harvest Thanksgiving. We've got Halloween, Bonfire Night, and Remembrance are the 5 of the biggest sort of events that will be presenting themselves to us.
So that's really quite a lot to go through, isn't it? We're going to go on now to ask you to give us some feedback. Now the question we're raising is there. We're asking, is this something you already do, that you actually use this explicitly as a missional intention? And we're going to ask you, please, to complete a poll. So I'm hoping that I've launched the poll. I'm going to hold on a minute. I apologize for this. Right, here we go. So if you could give us some feedback, please, by clicking on the appropriate situation. Okay, and we give it a few moments just to see who's responding. Is anybody not done it yet? Now this is looking quite interesting. I'll show you the screen in a moment or two. Okay, right, let's close the poll, and it's going. If you haven't done it, do it now. Right, here we go. So closing the poll, and now I'm going to share this with you, and hopefully you can all see the poll results. We've got 35% saying regularly, 47% saying sometimes, 6% saying never. Well, that's good it's that low. 12% saying they don't know. But the idea is to use these explicitly as mission opportunities. So that's what we are encouraging you to do. Right, so I'm going to hide that, and we'll go on with our presentation. So let's go to the first one, which was the start of the academic year. Gordon.
Indeed, and certainly my home church, and I don't think it would be alone in that, has quite a number of leavers services, and we make much of leaving, but I wonder how much do we make of people starting school, which can be quite scary. My own grandchild is starting school in September, and that's quite a big deal for both her and mum and dad, and I know that as well because both my son and my wife are teachers. And so what can we make of this? How can we help people start with school? And it's all about building good relationships with the staff and with the head teacher, whether it's a faith school or not. We've got an opportunity there as well. And one of the ways that we've found that works quite well in this Diocese of Lichfield is a thing called Pray, Bake, Read. And that's simply as it says. So you bake a cake and take it into the school, and then you ask, are there any specific things you would like them to pray for? And then you offer people to go and read one-to-one with the children. Pray, bake, read. If you go on the Diocesan Lichfield website, you can find information, and they're not precious about holding on to that idea as well, so you can find more about that as well.
So then hold on, Gordon, just run that again. It's on the website of the
Lichfield Diocese.
Okay, thank you.
www.lichfielddiocese.
Okay, sorry.
Yep, no problems. And then another idea that's been well used is Open the Book. And this is a 4-year program that is themed and dramatized storytelling at no charge using drama, mime, props and costumes, including a team. And the team, I can tell you, can be any age at all. I have a friend in his 80s and he's part of a team that goes in regularly to his school as well. And it's just a great interactive way of telling Bible stories and getting that idea into people and presenting it to the children in a fun, creative way as well. And then Prayer Spaces is another initiative as well, and there's a good website and information is there. Lots of valuable resources, and I really do recommend you use the resources on the website rather than DIY, because this is a sensitive issue on this spirituality and prayer, and so they've done the work. So look and work through what they're offering rather than perhaps do some a DIY on that one as well. So anything to add, Barry, on village schools?
I think there are two things. First of all, we want to talk about partnership. If you think of yourself and your church as being in partnership with the school, that would be helpful. Now, it may be, if you've got a village school, it may be that it's linked to the parish church, which is fine for the parish church, but if you're a non-conformist or a free church, you may feel that you're a bit estranged. But I want to say that if you are finding out what's happening in the school and how you can support it, then you'll find it'll open up. But if you talk with your partner churches, often there's opportunities to do things in an ecumenical way or in partnership, to share occasionally in assemblies, things like that. Build a good relationship. And then among the resources that are on the handout, Scripture Union have all sorts of things about children starting school for the first time, about moving on to the big school, and also about when they finish at school. Tremendous resources in Scripture Union, and so I want to commend that to you. But just as there are children, obviously, as they grow through their teens, there come a time when they're finished at school and they're off to university. So we want to say, what are you doing to build relationships up with those who are going to university and their families as well? Now, Gordon has spoken with me about the concept of the empty nest and the impact on the family when young people go off to university. And here's a time when the church can come alongside and support. It may be that the people going off to university are happy for you to have a link on Facebook, but do ask them, be careful about this, because they don't always want their parents to follow them on Facebook, though they ought to. So just see if you can build a link. Tell them that you'd like to pray for them, you'd like to keep in touch, maybe send them a letter at times. Certainly, you know, if it's coming around to exams or anything like that, just assure them that you're there, and and then ask them how are they getting on, so that you're building a relationship. You might want to use an introductory agency, so that if they're going off to a place far away, you want to say, is there a church in the area? What's it like? And so on. Mothers Union may be able to help. That's one of the agencies that are there and they can use. But if you're a Christian and you've got young people going away to university, one of the things to say is just be aware of the UCCF. This is the Colleges and University Christian Fellowship. It's a tremendous organization. It has wonderful resources. It's got a lovely welcome site. But beyond that, and again, they're in the link handout that you've got, there are some amazing videos as well. So their aim is to, the Christians in university will welcome new Christians coming to university and create a link. But it's among friends. It's really based entirely on friendship and is really important. So first activity through the autumn, new academic year, how are you responding to it? That's our question.
So the next thing, Barry, moving on, is harvest, which is currently being collected, and a bit of a struggle for some farmers getting in the second harvest. We've had the first one with this weather, so something just to pop in the back of your mind for prayers there. But again, I think with harvest, what we're particularly saying, don't go for the same old, dragging out those old sort of damp service sheets and everything. See if you can freshen it up in a different way. Maybe ask questions like, well, who decorates the church? Can we involve others in decorating the church? What about planning events with the village pub? And I think you've got a story about involvement with the village pub, haven't you, Barry?
Absolutely. In one of the villages near me, they discovered that the pub wanted to do something very special for the harvest time, and they were putting on a marquee and doing something very special. And so they arranged to support that, and that was held on a Saturday, and they took part in that and did some stuff with the music and so on. As a result, they had lots of new people come along to their Sunday service the following day. So that worked really, really well.
And that sort of, it's about moving out of the church building, and one of the ways you could do that, of course, is maybe a hog roast on a farm. And the other thing I was thinking, I mean, I mentioned about the first harvest, that was often called Lammas Day, which we've just celebrated, meaning first loaf. And then when you start thinking about bread around harvest, there's so much that you could do with bread making, a bread competition, pictures of bread, and guess what's the name of the bread, and bread in the Bible. And in the activity sheets, in the handouts, there's something there that picks up how to use a loaf, and thinking about sharing across the world as well. So broadening that out as well. So again, just wanting you really to push your imaginations out there from perhaps doing what they've already done before as well.
And Gordon, I've just realised that we've neglected to mention on this occasion. We mentioned it last year. I think, is it the British Food Fortnight or something? A period of time when there's a special focus, and if you can link with that, and you might find the WI are doing something with that. So again, link in, share the occasion with others.
Yes, thank you, Barry. You're right. That's one we'd let slip. British Food Fortnight. You Google it and you'll find it. It'll come up and tell you when all that is.
Yes, indeed. Now, it mentions on here the Arthur Rank website. We want to tell you that's been rebranded. It's now called Germinate. So what was Arthur Rank Centre is now called Germinate. The website, germinate.net. Okay, lots of harvest resources there. Okay, so do use that.
Just to chuck in quickly, Barry, thank you for putting FCN up there. I've been involved in FCN for a wee while. One of the things that I'd like to say is that around harvest time, why not get a farmer or somebody in agriculture, or you've got an agricultural college nearby, get somebody along to talk to you about that. But right, farmers aren't sometimes the most able to give a presentation. So you could interview them, or you could find out about your local FCN group and invite somebody from the Farming Community Network, used to be known as the Farm Crisis Network, to give a talk as well. They could talk about what life is like in farming today, and also about the great work of FCN supporting farming community. And of course, I can say as an FCN volunteer that we would always be very welcome of a retiring collection for this great piece of work that happens around the country as well. And just encourage you to get involved and engage with your local FCN group as well, because they've got much to offer you throughout the year, not just at harvest time as well.
I was shocked to learn this year that there are some farmers who actually use the food bank because things are tough for them. So just making people aware. So actually getting a speaker, that'd be a great idea. What about getting the publicity out in good time? Well, of course, Christian Publicity Organisation is the great source for advertising material, posters and leaflets, part printed leaflets, or they'll print them for you, and they'll do things for most of these activities. For virtually everything we're talking about, they'll have some material. So keep a link to cpo.org.uk, cpo.org.uk. Link is in the handout. So there's harvest.
And now, moving on to Halloween, Barry, something that you welcome, I suppose, from across the pond that's becoming more and more popular, even more popular than Bonfire, which we're going to mention in a moment. You really love Halloween, don't you, Barry?
I hate it. I really hate it. I hate the fact that the shops fill up with things so well in advance, and we get kids wandering around dressed as witches and ghouls and all sorts of things, and there's great negativity. But we can use this as an opportunity. The Evangelical Alliance has got a wonderful website with lots of links on it. It's not just for evangelical churches. So that's one of the great sources of materials, but there's lots of other ones available. Scripture Union, Gordon, quite a few things there.
Yeah. Indeed. And just picking up what you're saying there, Barry, one of the principles I remember when our children were growing up, one of the things we were taught is that if your child comes to you with something, holding something dangerous, they may have picked up a knife that was left lying around or whatever, then the immediate reaction is to try and grab it off them. But the best thing you can do is to offer them a distraction, offer them something, a cuddly or whatever, so they drop the dangerous and grab the good. And that's, I think, for me, is the principle behind what we're offering here. We're not against any of the or whatever, but let's see if we can turn it into a more wholesome way. And I think it's Scripture Union who have linked in, haven't they, Barry? And we've got a friend called, is it Pumpkin Heroes?
That's it's linked with World Vision, and there's 2 or 3 organizations linking with World Vision, and World Vision have developed this thing, Pumpkin Heroes, and there's a character called Pumpkin Patch. Now, we had hoped to show you the video. There's a wonderful video, but if you go to this website, you can if you Google World Vision, you'll see it, or if you go to the Scripture Union website, links in the handout, you'll come across Pumpkin Patch. And so again, with the idea now, very often half term will come around this time of year, so why not organize some sort of holiday club? You can use the light parties idea that are done by Scripture Union. You'll find there's an organization called Premier Children's Work. Again, it's in the handout, and they've got lots of ideas, lots of materials. So don't be overwhelmed by all the darkness of the Halloween celebrations that the world get up to. Bring some light into it. That's really what we want to say.
And Barry, if people are worried about trick or treat, you can equally put a notice up and just saying we don't have trick or treat, or you could welcome trick-or-treaters with a bag of sweets, perhaps with a gospel, and maybe you can find some suitable literature that you might want to pop into that bag that just says something a bit like we talked about Christianity.org.uk. So try and turn it around and make good use of it. And we flagged up here, as you would expect, Messy Church, of course, our Halloween resources. I think Messy Church has literally covered every event, every activity and every festivity in one way or another. So great stuff from Messy Church. So if you do engage with Messy Church, yes, you've got stuff there that will help you with you can have a Messy Church Halloween event as well.
Now, if you're not linked in already with Messy Church, you're not doing a Messy Church, there are still resources here that you can use. So they're not exclusive. So, I mean, look around, find out what's available. When we are preparing these presentations, we Google and look around to find what we can. We try and take soundings from other churches. And you can, I don't know whether in your area you do anything about networking village churches, but one of the things that Rural Mission Solutions does is encourage churches, local churches, to network together, perhaps to have 4 occasions when people from the churches, maybe the leaders or key people, meet together to talk about what they've learned from the past 3 months, what they're planning for the next 3 months, and share ideas and resources they've discovered. So we would like to encourage you to network. Resources on our website. You'll get the link later on. We've got 2 more events, Gordon. Let's move on quickly.
Yep, indeed. Bonfire night. Yes, that's coming round again. And so here are several ideas. We can think about offering people in preparing for the bonfire. We could think about offering refreshments, marshals, and then particularly helping people to clear up. And all the while, of course, we do need to be very careful of health and safety as well. And then thinking, well, can we build on this and what could we perhaps follow up with or link it with as well? Barry, just run through some of those things there, and then I've got one further idea to pick up from that. But these 3 things you flagged up there, Barry, just quickly run through those for us.
Okay, well, you could put on a family fun event, organize some games and activities, sing song, get some people in that are good at leading these things. So you could do something like that. So you linking it in. You could plan a family service. Usually people have their bonfires on the Saturday, don't they? So Sunday following, having something around fireworks and get some creative thinking. You know, if you actually get people talking about this and planning who do not normally come to church, you'll be amazed at their creativity. coming back to harvest and decorating the church, rather than saying, oh, we always put this here and we always put that there. Why not ask people to come in and to imagine how you might want to do it? So get people thinking. On the refreshment side, you could obviously say, all right, we're going to offer drinks, but there are other things you could offer. You know, dare you offer hot dogs? I mean, all sorts of things that you could do. So family fun, family services. If you've got the facilities and a license, or you're going to get one, there are films, information about this on the handout, also a link with a very good colleague of mine who does a lot of village ministry using films. Now, what's this item that you're going to add then, Gordon?
Just one of the things to add, Barry. As a kid, I remember that Bonfire Night always mentioned made hot potatoes. And so here's an idea. Have some hot potatoes in your village hall or wherever it is, and then debate a hot potato topic. So why are we still running Bonfire Night? We're certainly not anti-Catholic, are we? If you go to Lewes in Sussex, you'll find, yes, it still has that element about it as well. What about some of the modern day religious intolerance? Dare we even ask, was Guy Fawkes and his co-conspirators jihadist in their own way? And so you can see you could really get an interesting kind of debate and discussion going about that whole area as well. So eating some hot potatoes and discussing a hot potato topic that is still a live issue, as well as having a historical context as well.
Yes, I was just thinking, if part of the refreshments you were able to offer hot potatoes, and obviously you may have go-pack tables and other resources that you can make available. Of course, plenty of plastic bags and things like that. But if you were to do that, then you could have a handout to your hot potato evening. Maybe you could organise to run that in the pub rather than the village hall.
Yeah, that would be, yeah, sounds really good, Barry.
All sorts of possibilities. Right, well, we've gone through 4 of the 5, and that leads us through to Remembrance Sunday. And again, we want to say, avoid the same old, you know, Oh God, Our Help in Ages Past is a wonderful hymn, and you might want to sing it again. But, you know, when did you do something different? Now, how might you do that? Well, one way is that you could link up, if you've got a local history group, especially if it's a village one, could you link up with them, and can you plan something, get them to do some research? Now would be the time to ask them to do that. Now, in village church where I was the minister, we'd had 2 bombers during the Second World War that had collided over the village and crashed in the village. Fortunately not on a housing, but it did blow people's windows out. But the history group did some research for this on the anniversary year, and one of the planes was a Canadian plane, Canadian Air Force plane. The other one was a British Air Force plane, and we made contact with the families of those who were killed in the accident. We also made contact with Canada, and people came over from Canada for this special weekend of activities. And we even had somebody from the Canadian Air Force, somebody came. And we had an exhibition in the church. We had photos and stories and things, letters from people, all sorts of things. And using those people's stories is often good. So in the remembrance, is there somebody who could share a story or read a letter from somebody that they wrote during the war? That sort of thing has been coming on the news quite a lot in one way or another, and it will increasingly come in the news as we come nearer to Remembrance. Obviously next year's the big year, celebrating the centenary of the end of the First World War, but there are stories. So if in the context of the service you're able to do that, to actually have someone, maybe there's somebody who served in the forces who shares something of what it's like to be under fire and what it's difficult. Just, it will add something current and living into your thing. And I must add, do it ecumenically. Okay, do it in partnership. Don't have one service at the parish church and one service at the free church. Share and combine. Again, in my church where I was a minister, 1 year the service would be held at the parish church, and I, as the free church minister, would speak at it. Another time it would be held at the congregational church, and the vicar would speak. And the village responded, and the people in the churches responded positively because we did it in partnership together.
Don't forget the uniform groups as well, Barry. And you could involve those, the scouts, the brownies, the guides, cadet units if you've got any that are around. And it may be that you could get those guys along beforehand, cleaning up the war memorial as a practical act as well. And if you're putting on a service or act of worship, do have a mind for those guys as well, and just think about, well, what might be a way of engaging them as well. Just be worth thinking about it. Barry, can I just quickly say, I've just spotted a question there, and it just refers back to the Halloween and about that it was a precursor for All Saints, and this picks up the idea of linking in the church background to what's actually happening as well. And of course we actually do know that we go back further, that actually Halloween is a pagan festival of Samhain. And so there's actually quite a lot of interesting stuff there, and that itself could be another interesting hot potato. You know, should we get involved in it? Where does it come from? What are its roots? So just to answer that sort of question, absolutely spot on. Yes, it has to try and bring in and to see where the story is originated, how Christians got involved in it, and what they're doing now. So hopefully that kind of answers that question number 3 there. Barry, back down to remembrance. Resources.
Yes, well, Hope Together is a tremendous resource. These are just a few of the resources they did. The Edith Cavell book was used last year. They Greater Love resources and all of those. And that's John's Gospel. It's a replica of the one that was given to people going into the forces. But there are a lot more resources. So Hope Together, and there are other places. There's lots and lots and lots of resources. Some of these you'll find on the handouts, and visit the website from time to time, because if we've got anything that we've heard about that adds to the theme, under free online seminars, you'll find each of the ones that we do, not just the seasonal ones, but others are there. And if we come up with new resources, we add them to it. So visit from time to time. But just remind you to download those links that are there. If you haven't done it, maybe start downloading. You can keep listening and watching, but download those resources. If you don't get enough time, you'll find that you can get them from the website. Okay. Now, of course, there are other webinars coming up. These are just a few of the topics that we cover. So sharing your faith with your friends, the issue of does the image of the church help or hinder the mission? Usually it hinders it. So we've got a really helpful presentation about what unspoken messages are going out from your church and how they're getting in your way, what you can do about it, how to develop a suitable bespoke mission strategy, so how you tailor what you do so that it fits and it feels comfortable and the whole church can share, not just the Keeney people. So all of those. And seasonal ideas, I hate to say it, we're not having much of a summer at the moment, but it's very hot on the continent. Maybe it's going to come our way. Winter is coming. Gordon, are we going to have a winter presentation?
We are indeed, Barry, on the 21st of October. So put that date in your diary and spread the word. Hopefully you've found this webinar valuable. So come along. And as we said, Barry, we really welcome any ideas we've got. I mean, the winter obviously will be running into Christmas, on throughout and Christmas into the new year as well, into 2018.
So do book that date and do come. If you want to follow up with a chat, please indicate it in the survey. That will come on your screen. We'll hold the final slide for a little while, but then it'll go. But if you miss the downloads, you can get your handouts from the website. Just a quick thought, Gordon and I periodically run a one-day consultation, sort of mid-morning to mid-afternoon with a lunch, and these are designed to fit the local situation. They're for church leaders, rural churches across the denominations, so they are very effective. We did one at the Diocese of Chelmsford not long ago, and the feedback from that was amazing. So these are easily organized. You just need somebody willing to host, then contact Gordon or me, and we'll start to work with you. And the contact information you need is there on the screen. Just to say that one of the handouts is actually also, it'll have all the contact information in and also the slides, so that you can make notes while it's fresh in your mind, or watch the video when it's up on the screen. It'll be on YouTube later on, and also on the website. So we come to an end, and we say thank you for being here today. We hope you've really enjoyed and found it helpful. I'd like to hope we've answered some questions, given some seeds of thought that you can start growing, developing your own ideas. You know, we're only limited by our imagination. Sometimes I'm afraid we're limited by tradition, but let's break free and be creative in our thinking. Use the handouts, contact, follow up, and let's move forward for God. So on that note, I want to say my thank you for your being here, and my thank you to Gordon also for sharing in this presentation today.
Indeed, Barry, and thank you to you for all your time and effort in putting this together, and God's blessings and go with God to all those who have attended today. We've got a great God whose outrageous grace, and we have a wonderful opportunity of sharing that. So God's blessing upon you as you go out into the harvest field, sharing that radical grace of God.
Thank you, Gordon. So on that note, Gordon and I are going to turn our microphones off. We're leaving this screen on for another 60 seconds so that you can download things if you haven't done so. Okay, thank you for being with us. Give us your feedback, please, in the survey.